Okay, this starts streaming straight away. Google's got some. YouTube has this weird new interface now where I can't really tell if it started streaming or not. But okay, it looks like I am live. I just want to do a quick prefix to this video. This is a live stream, and it's not really an educational live stream. It's more me preparing for my next video series. So that basically means that I'm not going to be doing like a lot of explanation for what I'm working on, and it also means that what was I going to say? I should have written something down. Basically, this stream is just me playing around trying to get stuff set up. So I don't want it to be sort of used as a foundation as an educational video because I think people have gotten confused in the past with these live streams and thought, oh, Luke's going to be teaching us such and such in these videos, whereas that's not it. It's more me working on something. All right, I'm just kind of what am I saying? I'm just babbling now. All right, so I'm going to be building a goal setting series using Strapi on the back end and Quasar on the front end. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and get started and see how this works out. Now, first of all, I need to change this folder structure because in its current state, it doesn't really support having a back end. So let's just say front and back. So we'll do that. I'll select all of these except for front and throw them in there. And then for the back end, we'll start up Strapi. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time with Strapi yet, but I'm starting to get the hang of it. Oh, here we go. We can just run that to get up and running. Greatest, and let's call this back. Hopefully it's going to ask me the questions I want it to ask. Yep, that's fine. Because I want to be able to use a Postgres database. So then I can sort of easier to play around with then. Let's go custom. That's probably where I'll get to choose the database type. Here we go, Postgres. Or maybe I should go SQLite. Now, if I do Postgres, there's a good chance I can do some other cool stuff in the future. So we'll go with Postgres. Instead of calling it back, let's call it goal setting. Okay, and it needs to have a host. So I need to actually set this up. So I'm just going to build that database up now. Here's my Postgres local. So now we should be able to create, well, a new database. I don't actually know what that looks like using this. Do I just go, ooh, can I create a database this way? You'd think that they'd have like an option where you can just say like new database or something. All right, we might have to do this manually. I got to admit, I don't think I've ever created a database manually, at least for like the past 8 years. So it's probably like create database, and what did we call it? We called it goal setting. So let's try that and see what happens. No, we're probably going to have to make this a string because of that dash. And I think it might have worked. There we go. We've got a goal setting database. So I should be able to come back in here. And yes, I believe that is the host. And it's probably all going to be the default. I believe I called this Sammy as the username. I'm going to throw this on my bottom screen because there's some stuff that I probably shouldn't be showing you in my database setup. Yeah, user is Sammy, and I think the password is just secret. That's usually what I do. This kind of thing. Sammy. And I think I went with secret. No, we are not using an SSL. This is local development. And let's find out if this works. Now, while that's running, I might jump into front. So this is basically our Quasar project. And I'm going to add the Strapi app extension. So yarn, no, it's not yarn, it's Quasar extension add, and I believe I called it at viewauth slash, okay, this is viewauth, so this is my authentication package. Give that a second to run. And then when this is done, I should be able to select Strapi as one of the options. And this is going to make it really, really easy to scaffold out authentication with Quasar and Strapi. So now I can come down here to Strapi, give that a moment to install. And there we go. So now we come into front here. That's given me a config file with strapi.js. What's going on here? No. Yeah, okay. Sometimes you need to do a little bit of setup. So one thing I will do is jump into my ESLinter to begin with, because I always basically make my linter stricter. That makes the development experience way nicer because it does a lot more formatting for you. This is why I don't use Prettier. If you bring this in, I've honestly just never felt the need to use Prettier because View 3 Recommended does everything I need. And anything that it doesn't do, I just add into my rules list here. And I think you'll find that ESLint covers pretty much all the stuff that you usually want to use in Prettier. So before using Prettier, I would come into ESLint, figure out if it does what you need it to do, and if it doesn't, then you can sort of go towards looking at using Prettier. That's what I'd recommend. I think too many people dive straight into using Prettier, but feel free to call me out on that. Now, they said something about the Babel config. Okay. No Babel config before. Oh, I think you have to do, yeah, this is one of those weird things. I think you have to do like dot Babel RC, and that can just be an empty object, and that's going to fix the problem. Let's try restarting Vola. Or maybe this isn't a Vola problem. Man, I hate this annoying little stuff. This isn't really a Quasar thing. I get this with most projects, and I can't even remember how to fix it. I thought that's all I did. I think I just literally created a Babel RC file. So let's try, is that all done? Yep, so now that that's done, let's just try closing this out and jumping back into it. Seeing if that's going to fix the problem. I probably won't need this anymore, at least for a while. So let's close that out. Yeah, right, I might have to do some Googling here. Let's have a look. It's probably one of those things that'll be easy to fix. Okay, so let's give that a try. Working directories, mode auto. I'm just going to blatantly do that. And see what happens. I have to close this out again. That doesn't seem to have done anything. Have I done that wrong? ESLint dot working directories. Bugger. I mean, I could just ignore it for now, but this is going to crop up again and again. Welcome to the life of a developer. Yeah, no, that's not it. All right, this might be a different problem. The other thing is it might be because this is not in the root directory. Yeah, because I've got multiple folders. So let's try throwing it in there and see what happens. Okay. Oh, All right, that seems to have solved it. So it looks like I just needed to add this .babblrc that was empty there. All right, I'm glad to be rid of that problem. Let's come back in here. And what is next? So now I want to start up my dev server, I think, and just check if everything's working, which it probably isn't by default. I'll probably have to change a couple of things. Oh, I can't run yarn dev. Another thing that I often always do with a new project is add a yarn dev in here, because that makes it clear what kind of a Quasar project we're running by default. So PWA, SPA, etc. So let's just call this one dev, and we'll say Quasar dev, and we'll set the mode equal to SPA. Even though it's SPA by default, I just like to make it very clear to people that are opening this package up, hey, when we develop, we're doing it in SPA mode. Yarn dev. And now in the meantime, let's jump back into this config. I'm going to use the default settings for all of these. And honestly, they're all probably going to be fine too. You know, one thing I do need to change in this plugin, now that I think about it, we don't have a base URL, which is really bad. We definitely need a base URL. Okay, I'm going to remember that. Anyway, here we are. One of the other thing I do is get rid of this sort of hashtag slash. I think it's ugly. And these days, it's not hard to deploy a website that supports history mode. So I'm going to change that to history mode. Give that a second to restart. And now you're always going to get a few lint problems because there's a couple of rules that Quasar doesn't follow. And this is another one. And this is a volar problem, which may or may not be fixed in the future, where we have to come in here and say JSX preserve. All right, essential links. I'll come in here and save it. So that gets reformatted. And there we go. We're getting all green. Nice. And now I should be able to go to, I think it's auth maybe? Oh, God, I can't remember. Login. There we go. Register. I would doubt this would all work by default, but let's find out. Cross our fingers. Well, we don't even have our Strapi server running, so it definitely will not work. So we'll come in here and we'll cd into the backend and maybe yarn dev. Nope. All right. What is it for Strapi? They call it develop. Okay, so we'll say yarn develop. And then that should start up our Strapi server. Cool. First name, Luke. My last name. Get all this info in. Oh, God, they've got rules around the password. Let's go password, that'll do. And I used a capital P for password. No, let's get started. Oh my goodness. What about secret 123? Okay, capital S for secret 123. All right, there we go. Not now, not ever. So the first thing I'll do is create some sort of a content structure here. We might jump into Miro.new so I can kind of map out what this is going to look like, because I haven't even thought about that yet. We've got users. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and first get authentication working. And I believe we've got email authentication here somewhere. Yeah, we probably get that by default. There we go. We do actually get email authentication by default. So the next thing to do is to try and register, I guess. Look at example.com. Not found. All right. Let's see what we're getting here. All right, so the other thing we're going to have to do is set up our server. So we'll jump into our Quasar config here. Look at our dev server. Yeah, and then we have to basically say, if you hit this endpoint, then I want you to forward it to my Strapi server, which I believe is on 1337, which is kind of annoying. I hate how they all do that. They all want to have the port 1337 because everybody thinks it's so cool. By the way, 1337 is like a way of spelling leet with just numbers, which is why I think a lot of projects use it. What is this? This is called proxy, I believe. Proxy. And if I can remember how to do this correctly, we then basically need to add all these proxies in. We'll jump into the Strapi config. And these are going to be all the proxies that I require. Or we might be able to just proxy API because they all start with API. Let's have a look at Webpack Dev Server because it's going to remind me how to do proxies. Here it is. I think that's going to be all we need, actually. Let's try that. Save it. Jump back in here. Run register again. Gateway timeout. Okay, well, that's different. Oh, it looks like the dev server might have been restarting when I changed those settings. Maybe not. Let's have a look here. Okay, so the error was proxying. Am I going? Oh, I didn't put the port in. Silly me. All right, so if we try and hit any of the API endpoints, we might also have to do a rewrite. I always forget what rewrite does. Does it W, right? Yeah, path rewrite. Okay, we will need to do that. Wait, if you don't want... Okay, we do want API to be passed along. So we do not want to do a path rewrite. Oh, this is basically saying get rid of the API part, this part here, and then remove it, which is not what we want to do in this case. So let's come back to our goal setting app and give this another crack. And there we go. So we've got authentication set up. I'll make sure I teach that in such a way that I can do it quickly. And let's just test that everything is working. Log out, Luke at example.com. And there we go. Everything seems to be working really nice. And we've got this foundation we can start working with. All right, I don't have a lot of time until I need to start work for the day, but what I might do is, yeah, I want to get GraphQL set up, so let's do that. If they have it with the current version of Strapi, let's have a look here. Yeah, here we go. Looks like they do. Yeah, but yeah. All right, so let's just run this. Maybe it will let me do it with yarn. Let's say yarn. Whoops, that didn't work. Oh, so you just say Strapi install and then the plugin. Yarn. Was it run? Oh no, yarn Strapi install. And the plugin is GraphQL. Cool. Looks like that's going. And now we should have a playground at /GraphQL. Very cool. Don't need that anymore. Now, while that's installing, let's start thinking a little bit about what this is going to look like. Because I actually don't have any idea. I know that I want to build a goal setting app. So I'm imagining, first of all, you need to be able to create goals. Maybe we have a timeline on those goals, and then maybe there's a calendar where you can view where all of your goals are at. That could be cool. So what's a goal going to have? How about we give it a name, for the name of our goal. or goal. Maybe even just call it goal. Yeah. So we have a goal. We'll give it a color. I always like to give things a color. Target date. And then we'll also have completion date. And then we'll have complete. Or we probably don't need complete because we can see if there is a completion date. If that's not null, then we can assume that it is complete. Target date, completion date. Maybe give it a description as well. Let's come up here and say description. And I think that'll do. So then I'm thinking you probably need to display all of your goals. So maybe we could do that using cards. Yeah. So you could just call this like a goal card. And what's it going to have? You know what? Let's just turn this into an example of what a goal card would be. And then maybe the goal card has got just the title, the goal here. So run 10 kilometers for the week, something like that. And then the description down here. No, and maybe you don't have to have a description. Yeah, maybe it's just like that. It's literally it. It's just a card that says what the goal is. Yeah, we'll keep it simple for now. And let's make it so we've got some CRUD operations. Of course, we're going to want to teach that. So we'll come in here and how about we say edit, you know, all this good stuff. You can also delete a goal. Or maybe remove is better language here. And then maybe like a big tick for complete. And you know what would be cool? People would probably like to see how you can share this on Twitter. So how about we have another button here for share? I'll probably flesh this out a little bit more in the future because I want to, I think I might want to build something a little bit more specific. Like base it on the one thing, for example, which is a book I've read about, you know, goal setting. And I think it's a really smart way to set goals. So maybe like a share button here. Doesn't need to be perfect. All right, so you can create goals. We've got a place where you can view goals. View. Create. And I also want to have a calendar. So how about this? Calendar view. Because there is an amazing app extension for Quasar for dealing with calendars. Yeah, goal calendar. I won't really scaffold all of that out. I think I can kind of imagine what that would look like in my head. And there we go. We probably want some filtering options here as well. You know, let's leave it like this for now. And we'll create basically a goal on the back end based on what I've written there. So let's come over here. Oh, that's right. We haven't got the dev server running. Did that work? Looks like it might have. Let's run develop again there. There we go. So now we want to create some new content. Let's create a new entry. Username? What? Oh no, this is an entry for the user. We want to what am I doing? We want to create a new content type builder. Yeah, it's okay. I know how to use this. And it's going to have, well, we'll bring the Miro board up here so we can see goal, which would just be text. So we'll call that goal, add another field. Description, which will be, do we want it to be rich text? Yeah, might as well. Let's go with that. We'll have a play. Description, we just want normal text for the color. Add another field. And then we've got target date here, which will of course be a date field. Oh, did I just choose text there? Oh, if I say cancel, it cancels the whole thing, doesn't it? Oh, good one, Luke. Let's come back in here. Or did it add them in? Why am I getting that? Weird. All right. So let's create a new collection type. We'll do it again. Goals. I might have clicked on the wrong thing before. I think I did. Okay, so we'll set it to goal because it automatically pluralizes it. So I guess you could make this a capital goal. Goal and then goals plural for the API. Yeah, that all makes sense. All right, let's have another crack at this. We've got a goal. Add another field. Rich text for the description. Add another field. We want to have a color. Add another field. This one's going to be a date. There we go. I got it right this time. Target date. Oh. Let's go date time because it might be sort of second and minute sensitive as well, and a completion date as well. Date time, completion date. I wonder if this includes a time zone because I would definitely want a time zone in that. All right, anyway, let's finish it there. Oh, one more field actually, a relation, because we need to have a user attached to that. And this relation is going to be that a user has many goals. Okay, maybe there's some other things that I need to do first. Maybe we need to do this from the user side. Okay, that'll be a normal user. And a user has many goals. And I imagine that would be goal ID. Why is it saying field name goal? Oh no, user ID. Is that right? Hang on. A user has many, and the thing it set it to by default was goal singular. Why would it do that? This looks backwards to me. Oh, that's what it's called on the. Oh, right. I got confused here. A goal belongs to many users. I was reading it from the bottom instead of the top. Okay. User has many goals. That makes sense now. All right. I need to remember that. Read from the top, not the bottom part. All right. So there we go. We've now got our goal, and we can press save, and that's going to then persist that to the database. So we'll give that a second to run. And then when that's done, the next thing to do is to see if I can get this working with GraphQL. So let's go to our plugins. GraphQL. I think I can literally just go here / GraphQL. Well, there you go. Works straight up. And I have not written GraphQL in quite some time. Well, that's not true. I actually did some today for the first time. And so I'm kind of going blind here. Let's say GraphQL query example. I just need to see it and then it'll make sense straight away, I think. Yeah, but often they put the word query in there as well. Oh, that's all right. We'll just do it this way. So we can say, give me back, um, what am I grabbing? I'm grabbing goals. Give me back some goals. Do I need to then make that a, oh no, it's just a object like this. And specifically, I want the goal, data for that goal. Is that what I called it? No, maybe I called it something different. Goal, create new entry. Yeah, it was goal. All right, let's just do one. Run 10 kilometers, some description, color. Just do like a gray color. And choose a random time. And let's just say this one is not completed. Ah! Save. Run that again. Let's see what this looks like in the database. A second. All right, so it is goals plural. What am I doing wrong here? Let's literally copy paste that. And we'll say here, goals. Yeah, right, I might need to nest this like further in query, for example. Might have to tell it that it's a query. Yeah, something like that. So let's say query goals, get the goals. Then we can say here, I'm getting goals, and specifically I want out of that the name of that goal. Okay, does it nest it in data? Looks like it does. Oh man, I do not like that. I hate it when they do this, or when they force you to do it. Is it nested even further? All right, let's see what we've got here. So from goals, we've got data for a goal, and then attributes. Okay, it's nested even further. Jeez. Data, attributes, goal. All right, forbidden access. So I need to have some sort of a token. But okay, it looks like that's at least working now. So it's got me one step further. We can close that out now. And just for now, I'm going to come into settings and set the permissions on that to basically do whatever I want. Or maybe we should just create an API token. That's probably a better way to do this. GraphQL play. Full access. I don't care if you see this because it's on my local dev server. And I believe this is just a bearer token. So have they got an easy way to do authorization? It doesn't look like it. So let's say authorization. I believe I just say bearer, whack that straight in. And there we go, it's working. Is it though? I thought I created a goal before. Okay, because it's in draft state. I do not want it to be able to be in draft state. So we'll come back to the content type builder, goal, and edit this, remove draft state. Yes, disable draft state. Finish. Let's do a restart of the server. There we go. So now we should be able to grab this. And it won't put it into draft state. So here's our content. Oh, did it just delete it? All right, that must be how that works. Let's do a refresh just in case. So right, we'll create a new goal. My goal. My gal. My goal. And probably end up making this one required. I actually don't know just yet. And there we go. So now we can get that back. All right. I wonder if you have the power to change the nesting for the GraphQL plugin. Because I get why they do this. Sometimes you kind of need those edges so that you can do proper pagination and stuff like that. But I really don't need it for the scope of this project. I'm not seeing anything in settings. All right, so let's jump into the Strapi docs. I think I've got that open here. Configurations. All right, looks like I'm going to have to do some reading. Oh, maybe this will help. What is shadow crud? Depth limit, amount limit. Okay, looks so if we've got any Apollo settings here, I thought Apollo was a front end tool. Oh no, Apollo server. Okay, so let's say Apollo server do uh do not nest. But this is probably in the schema. Yeah, right. I'm gonna have to do some more research on this. But that's something that I do want to do. Oh, actually, do I need to do that? I'm not going to be using Vuex or any tools like that. Anyway, I need to go to the toilet. I'll be back in a second. We'll see if we can figure out a solution. Okay, while I was on the toilet, I decided that we're just going to use the default nesting that's provided to us by the GraphQL plugin. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of building, and then we'll press on. So one thing I don't know how to do, which will be a great learning experience for me, is how to basically scope data to a user. How to say, one, I'm creating this piece of data. Can you ensure that that data is just for me? So that it sets the user ID, but then getting the server to do that, because you certainly do not want to allow the user to do that. Otherwise, they could just change the ID and then create data for other users. So that would not be good. I know how to do this query now. I'm going to throw that on my bottom screen. Will we need this? Yeah, we will in a second. And let's go ahead and start scaffolding out what this create form might look like. This is the fun part. And I'm imagining, that's the back end. Let's maybe create a new section here. I usually just use my other terminal like this, but I don't want to do that in this series. I want people to actually be able to follow. So I've never done this before. Just plus like that. Okay, there we go. That works. And now we'll say Quasar new component. And how about we call this create goal form. Now I'll see if I can create a unified form, and we'll make this a goal form. New. Really? It's not create. I'm pretty sure it's definitely new. Okay, let's run that through yarn. Oh, Okay, of course that's not going to work because I'm not inside of front. Let's run that again. Goal form. So now we'll jump into goal form and start having some fun. You know what? I shouldn't even use the generator because I always just end up using my own template anyway. So first of all, I'm going to use view use. So let's say yarn add at view use slash core. I always use view use because there's so many helpful utilities when you're using the composition API. And then I've got this, I think it's called proxy model. No, model proxy. There we go. And this is what I do with forms so that I can easily model the data on a form. And let's just call this form. No, we won't call it form. We'll call it model value so that I can just use vmodel directly on this goal form. All right, so then let's call this the form. And this basically means that this is a really cool pattern. It means whenever I change form now, because of this composable I'm using, it's also going to do all of the emitting. So it's going to emit to the parent the changes of that form. But also anything coming through from the parent is going to be set on this variable. So it's a really great way to proxy. So rather than having to say like emit value and do all that kind of stuff, I don't have to do any of it. I just use this composable. This is one of the great things about the composition API. You can really abstract things in a very meaningful way. So now we can go ahead and start building out our form. I'll do that by saying q-form like so, and then we'll add all the fields in. Q input, and I'm also going to jump back into the index page and actually use this. So let's come in here and we'll say Q. No, it's not the index page. It is the dashboard, which is something that's given to us when we use Quasar auth. So now I can come in here and say, what did we call it? We called it goal form. There we go. I am getting auto import. Very nice. I like to have this above the template. There we go. And now, because of that composable I'm using, I can say vmodel is equal to, let's just say form and keep things simple for now. But later on, we'll turn all of this into composable so that it's nice and easy to use. Now I can say const form is equal to a ref, which will be an object. And yes, I do need to import that from view as well. And let's have a look at what we've got on a goal. Is there a way that I can, I don't know, hide some of this stuff? No, it looks like there isn't. Yeah, right. I'm going to have to just remember it. So we've got goal, color, target date. So let's say goal, color, target date. Color, target date. We'll do it like this though. No, we'll use the underscore, target date for sure, so that it can easily be sent to the back end. Oh, thank you. How do I say your name? Kamal? Kamal? Let me know if I'm saying that wrong, which is, there's a very good chance that I am. By default, this will be a string, so empty. Let's give it a default color. Or maybe we shouldn't give it a default color. Now we'll set that to null by default. And then the target date, we'll also set that to null and make it possible to not have a target date in there. Let's go create new entry. We also had a description here and a completion date. Obviously, completion date is not going to make sense at this point. So let's come in here and say description and completion date. And we'll put that up there, make it an empty string, and then we'll change that from target to completion. Save it, and we might even set a default there by saying new date. No, I'm not going to do that, because then it wouldn't be null by default, and I want it to be nullable. All right, so now that we've got our form and it's being modeled here, let's check that everything is okay. All right, so we're not getting any errors. Now let's control click goal form, come in here and start building it out. So now I can easily say vmodel is equal to form dot, what's the first thing we had? The title, which I believe we called goal. All right, now we've got some errors. Let's just see what happens here. Expected a string. I don't know why I would do a string there. No, that is definitely not a string. It is an object. Let's try it again. There we go. We can type in. The fact that that's staying there tells me that it's working, but let's quickly come in here and check that everything does actually look right by using a pre-tag. Come in here, spit out the form. I'm also going to change this to a column so that that sits underneath the form. And let's get rid of the centering of the text. Text center. There we go. I might actually get rid of flex center as well. No, let's bring it back in. Cool. All right, so now we can keep working along here. Goal form. I hate this style with the underline. I mean, I don't mind it. It depends on the situation, but for the most part, I usually don't like using it. I almost always use filled. Now we'll say label is equal to goal, and that's looking pretty good. Next thing we had is the description. Cool, now I can just look at it right there. And let's change this to a input that's got a type equal to text area. And we'll set the label here equal to description. Save it. There we go, that's working. Next, I'll come in here and say class is equal to q dash gutter, maybe medium, so that we get a bit of a separation here. And then we'll move on to the next one. And the next thing we've got is the color. So this would be easy to do as well. Thanks to Quasar, we can just say color here. This is, by the way, needs to model the description. This can model the color. And we'll set the label. Well, it's not actually going to have a label because color can't have a label. So let's save that. And there we go. Now we can choose a color as well. I'm going to come back into the user dashboard and put this inside of a card. Q card. There we go. So we get a bit of a shadowing in there. And let's also wrap that inside of a Q card section. Yeah, cool. And then I'm going to have a submit button outside of the card section. I usually like doing it this way. So we can say button and class is equal to full width. And then I just give it the primary color. Color is equal to primary. So it sort of pulls along the bottom there. I think that looks really good. And then we'll set the label equal to create. Nice. All right, so that's looking nice so far. I don't like the double shadowing here. I only like to have one thing that's got a shadowed border. When you got two things with a shadowed border, I think it kind of ruins the design. So I like to have the outside elevated and then the inside flat. For that reason, I'm going to come into the color input and make it flat, but then it removes the borders. So the next thing I do is just say outline. Quasar makes this stuff really simple. Outlined? Outline or outlined? Outline. Oh no, it's probably bordered. Yeah, of course. All right, there we go. So now we can choose a color that updates. We can add a description. We can put in a goal here. That's all working great. Then we've got a target date and a completion date. The only one we want to do though is the target date because it doesn't make sense to do the completion date at this point. So let's come in here and say q-date, which will be a date picker. And we probably want a time picker as well. At some point, I'll extract this to its own component, which is a date time picker, which would be really nice to do. But for now, let's just say target underscore date here. Type is not required. We'll probably need flattened bordered. I'm going to cut that, just see what it looks like. Yeah, so I want flattened bordered there as well. Cool, so now we can select a date. Very nice. So you can come in here, you can select a date, you can select a color, you can type in the name of the goal. We probably want a title up here as well. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So we'll say maybe like a H4 here. And we'll say title. This is probably not semantic HTML. I really need to take the time to understand what semantic HTML is. Otherwise, I'm going to get in some serious trouble from the semantic warriors on the web. Which is fair enough. They're fighting a good cause. Helping people like me make things semantic. Let's say text gray 8 or maybe 9. Yeah, I like to add a grayness to that text just to make it a bit more understated. I don't like full black text. So that's looking good to me. Let's see if we can get that to work. We now know that the data is correct, meaning I can come into this index page and get rid of the pre-tag. Not index. It's going to be dashboard. Here's our pre-tag. Get rid of that. Save it. By the way, notice that my goal form is not create goal form. It's not update goal form. It's completely separated from the logic of actually creating and updating the goal. This is a pattern I follow all the time now, and it's really important to creating maintainable not gold, what am I saying? Maintainable code and flexible code. So usually I like to make it up to the parent to do all of the requests and all that good stuff. So my request logic is going to sit inside of here. And then when this gets crowded, you would actually then abstract that even further. At least that's how I like to code. And eventually I end up with composables and I end up pulling in a whole bunch of services. So I have something like this: const model service, or in this case it would be called goal service, is equal to use model, and then I'd pass through like a class for my goal. Anyway, that's going a little bit beyond the scope of what I'm building here. All right, so that's working, that's modeling okay. We need to make it so that when we press on that create button, it actually does something. So let's say @click is equal to create goal, and then we'll have some function, some logic up here to do that. Create goal, and let's console.log form.value just to check that that is in fact working, which it almost certainly is. And there we go, it is. I set the target date and it's spitting that out. So I'm happy with that. I've done this a million times. I'm pretty confident that is now working. Now, next thing I need to do is figure out how to use GraphQL in this scenario. Oh, actually, before I do that, we need to figure out how we can get our, what do you call it? Our bearer token, which I believe is sitting in local storage here. Yeah, that wouldn't be that. Strapi authorization token. So when I need that, I can grab that. Actually, I'm pretty sure that there's a composable we get for free that gives us that. So let's come back here to Strapi.js. Here we go, use token repo. So now I can just come in here, I think, and say import, where's it coming from? It's not view auth, is it? It would be @viewauth Strapi, and then use token. How do I get this? I need to remember how I wrote my own thing. I think it comes out of @viewauth /auth. Oh, if I can spell this right. I'm trying to think and spell at the same time. And specifically, I think there's like a use config or something like that. Ah, bugger. Oh no, this would be core. Yeah, I'm looking for something related to get config. That's what it is. Okay, so let's say here get config. We'll do a console.log of that here. Instead of figure out how to get this bloody token. Oh, well, let's actually call that. Here we go. So, nah, not auth state. This is a Strapi specific thing. I know there's a way I wrote to do this. Maybe something about a token. Yeah, okay, I probably do have to pull this directly out of Strapi. So let's jump in there and see what we've got. And we're looking for something about a token. Use local storage token repo. I'm sure there's a way that I can do this. It should be provided at some point. Use token repo. Yeah, you know what? It doesn't matter enough for now. So let's come in here and say use local storage repo, because I'm pretty sure that will actually in fact work. And we'll say token repo is equal to that. And then let's just do a console.log of that to see if I can get the token. I thought there was like a dot. I had to say like dot something. Use token repo return. Here it is here. I can't click through. It means that I've probably done something wrong. And let's just call get on that and see what happens. And there we go. Okay, so then we can call And you do that with a wait. All right. Anyway, the point being, we have a way to get the token now. Whew. All right. So next, when we go to create the goal, we need to make a request to the backend using our token. And I might have to set some permissions so that the user can actually access goals. And then down the line, I'd want to make them more specific so that the goals are user specific. But if we come in here and say, no, not administration, roles here, authenticated. If you're an authenticated user, what can you do with the goal? You can create one, you can delete it. Yeah, basically you can do anything with the goal. In its current state, this is not safe because now all users that are authenticated have access to any goal, whereas they should have access to only their own goals. So there would have to be some extra code that we'd have to do to get this to work properly. But anyway, I'm going to save that now. And now we'll come back in here and start writing the code. So first, we need to make this asynchronous. So let's say async there, and then we'll say const token is equal to await, and then using the token repo, we then say get there. That's going to give us the token. Once we have that token, we can then make the request. We're going to use the fetch API. All right, so now we can come in here and say what the endpoint is. I believe that's endpoint, or is it URL? Yep, there we go. Which is going to be localhost. We should add here http:// localhost slash. I think that's it actually. 1237 GraphQL. That's correct. Now, in order for this to work, we need to make sure it's forwarded correctly. So we can do that by going into our Quasar config, and I'll copy paste that down and change this from API to GraphQL. There we go. All right, so that should work. Next, I want to say that it's a post request. So I think you have to do type. No, how do I do that? Method is equal to post. We also need some headers in there. So there we go. Authorization. And then we want to say bearer is equal to that token that I got. Now, I've written way too much code without testing where I'm at. So let's just copy paste that in and see if it works. Yep, we get that token. That works fine. Eventually, I would abstract this so I don't have to worry about getting the token every time I do the request. And that's definitely what I'll do in the tutorial series at some point. Okay, so that's looking good to me. Now we need to actually send it through some, the body as well, which I believe will be the query itself. And now I need to know how to do a create with GraphQL. So let's say GraphQL create. Yeah, they call them mutations. So show me a mutation. Still a query. Mutations. There we go. I should have done that before. And I'm pretty sure that I can just take a look at that and sort of jimmy it into what I'm doing. Create goal. And then we'll call this, well, I guess, the goal. Do you send through an object or do you send through each variable independently? Stars commentary. Oh, that's creating a review. Yeah, I think you do actually send them in individually. So we'll come in here. Oh, yeah, you would because you need to say what the type is for each of them. How is that done? All right, with commas. So now we can come in here and say $goal is equal to a string. And you can say if it's required as well, it looks like. What else have we got? Then we've got description is equal to a string also. And then we'll call this create goal. There we go. That's already exists. And it needs data inside of there. So then it looks like you say, for example, data, and we're getting auto completion, so it looks like that is correct. And we just need to align everything up. So there's the goal, and there's the description. Let's go with just that for now, and then I want you to send me back the goal and the description. Whew, all right, let's see if this works. If I got this in one, seriously, I will be baffled. For the goal, we'll say example goal, copy paste that down. Description is going to be worked, question mark. Okay. Right, so this is nested in data. That's why that's not working. Ugh, what happened there? Data. And then inside of there, you then have goal, description. And yes, let's pull through the ID. Am I meant to have commas there? I can't even remember. Oh, goodness me. I would assume I would. What have they got? Some more advanced example. No, there are no commas. Hmm. So that gives you an object, and then that object has the response. There's the object. It's data attributes, I believe. Oh, because ID is in data. Okay, I'm really going to have to get used to this. Remember now, it's nested even further than I thought. Now let's prettify that. Nice. Ooh, very nice. Okay, and that worked. So now we've got our query. I can pretty much just copy that and paste it directly in here. Now I'll use some tooling in the future to make this just nicer, but let's just do that for now. When I save that, it does no formatting at all, probably because it's a template string, so it doesn't know if it needs to format it. There we go. And then the data. Shh, Panda. It's my dog barking at the neighbors. And I can probably send that form directly through as the data. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's just say data is form.value. All right, and then we'll say const response is equal to, we will await that fetch, and then when this is done, we'll log it just to check what everything looks like. Actually, no, oh no, we'll get the body back, so that will be a useful log. Yeah, sorry, I'm speaking out loud to myself here. Quick refresh just to be sure. Blah, 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 blah. And I haven't done the others. I wonder if it'll be okay with that. Oh, looks like I got a 200. Right, DFGH, that's what I sent through. Yeah, things are running pretty smoothly today. Huh, I spoke too soon. Let's actually take a look at that response. Oh, that doesn't look good, does it? No, I've sent something in the wrong position. Body, that makes sense. URL, the data being sent through. Why am I getting that weird URL? Oh, it's saying that's what the response is. So maybe it's actually the server that's giving me that kind of weird result. Okay. It's probably giving me an error object back. Body. Yeah, okay. Let's do this again, and I'm going to give myself a more useful response here by saying const response data is equal to, and then we can grab that response and then say dot JSON, and this needs to be awaited. Now let's console.log that response data. That will give me a better idea of what's going on. Let's try that. Okay, so maybe I'm not getting JSON back as a response. Can I do the same thing with response body? What does that give me back? A promise? Yeah, it looks like that's a stream, so this might work as well. Nah, response body is not a function. I'll be honest, I don't actually know how to get the body then using fetch. But you know what? I'm pretty sure the problem is somewhat related to the fact we're only sending through the goal in the description. So for now, let's see if I can get it working by saying goal is equal to that description dot value dot goal. Oh. And let's do some inspecting here. Oh, okay, I didn't fix that body problem. But I just want to check that what I sent through looks good. Oh, hang on, we're not getting... No, yeah, that is the request URL. The request URL is completely wrong. Why? Is this something I don't understand about the fetch API? So you get the token. What? This is just bonkers to me. All right, let's try to a restart of the server. The other thing, I guess, is just to Google it. We are using fetch API and then just paste that in there. Here we go. Okay, might be something in here. No, this is completely unrelated. Man, this is bonkers. Anyone has any ideas, please let me know. I'm just looking at this here and it looks like maybe instead of body, this is meant to be like data. No. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm doing this wrong. Now that I think about it, I don't know. Ah, I bet you it's done like this. You send through data, that would be your variables. what do they call it? I mean, I suppose I could open up the console here and see what this is doing. There we go. So you got operation name, the query itself, and then the variables. That is not sending through any variables though. Oh, okay, here we go. So the payload has got the query, operation name, and variables. All right, so, all right, in that case, it should look something like this. Luckily, I still have that copied. Just lay this out a little bit nicer. Maybe like that. So query, variables, and let's also add in operation name. I don't know why they do that there, but I'm sure there's a legit reason. And it looks like, what did that operation name? Close that out, run that again. Okay, so it was the one with the capital. All right, we'll change that to a capital. Let's see if this works. Blah, 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 blah. Create. Well, that body problem is still there because for some reason I haven't fixed it. Looks like it's doing the same thing as before. And this is being sent as a post request? Well, that's the other thing to check. Is it being sent as a post request? No, it's being sent as a get. Whoa, what? All right, looks like I'm doing something wrong with the fetch API. Maybe the first thing you have in the fetch API is the URL. So I might be just doing this completely wrong using the fetch API. Yeah, oh my goodness. Oh goodness, that is embarrassing. So the reason is I'm supposed to just put the URL then there and then the options. Oh my goodness. I'm pretty sure that'll at least get rid of one of our problems here. Blah, 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 blah. Create. Okay, cool. We have a different error. Bad request. Body missing, invalid content type, or JSON object has no keys. Okay. Let's dissect this. We come back here. It's funny, I spent a lot of time with GraphQL, but I always used other tools. I never did it from scratch. And now that's coming back to bite me. So that's the payload, not the... Is that what they mean by body? That's what I assumed. So operation name, the query, which is a string, and then the variables. So let's give that another look. I'll throw this down here. And then the variables, I'll throw that up there. Just going to sit and think on this for a little bit. Let's have a look at the request itself. So maybe the payload, do we use data there? Or maybe it's not supposed to be data, it's meant to be body. All right, I'm going to find out. This is really bad. I should be just looking at the documentation. Yeah, okay, and then I probably need to JSON.stringify that. I'm just going to look at the docs if I have any more problems, though. And finally get rid of this. Response JSON. Yeah, JSON.stringify that. Okay, so it looks like that data is being sent through correctly now. And now let's see if they're setting the type to JSON here in their headers. Yeah, content type is application JSON. So I'm going to steal that. And then just whack it in here. Add that into the headers. So I might be strict about that, wanting me to put the content type in. Oh! Very nice. And we got the data back. Looks like it's working. Cool. All right. We got that out of the way. Let's press on. So now we can create a goal. Let's make it so that you can then, I might just like smash out all the goals at the bottom of the list here, and then I'll finish up because I need to go to work. Oh, that's right. I just boiled the kettle. I'll be right back. I'm just grabbing my coffee. Boom, I'm back. A coffee a day keeps the brain at play. This form looks horrendous, by the way. It will be fixed at some point so that things are laid out a little bit nicer. But okay, so then you'd create. So when we first load this, we then need to basically fetch everything. And for now, I need to pull this logic out because it's driving me nuts. So let's say reveal here. I'm just going to put it in pages for now, and we'll say, no, that's really bad. I won't put it in pages. Let's create a new folder called composables. This is not how I'll do it eventually, though. I think I'll have a much more structure than this. 11, and then I like to have a folder in there, which is for my models. So let's say models, and then another file, another folder in there for the model itself. In this case, it is a goal. So now we can put the file inside of here, which will be called use goal. Let's just call it that for now. Again, I'm just trying to get, you know, a little bit of structure in here, but I don't think this is what I'll end up landing on. So then basically we can pluck out all of this functionality and whack it into a composable. Actually, we should probably just return the response data. Yeah. And then, actually, I'm going to put that in an object because otherwise it's going to come back to bite me. We'll call this data. Because later on you want to do some error handling, and then you want to be able to say, for example, has errors or something like that. Yeah, actually, you know what? In fact, no, this is not how I'm going to do it. I think I'd rather store that data on the composable rather than returning anything here. And that's something that's not easy to understand right now, but it probably will eventually. Yeah, let's grab all of that, actually, which means I can grab the imports as well. And now we'll jump into use goal, and I'm going to change that to create goal. So we've got export default here. Now I can just, oh, actually, let's do that. So we've got the imports in, and then we'll say export default, which will be a function, because this is a composable. We're going to compose it. And then we need to return what's going to be available. So we'll have create goal, and then we'll have the form as well. So let's return create goal, and then the form, and then the data as well. So what I like to do then is come in here and say const data is equal to a ref. And for those of you that aren't convinced about the composition API, I think this might just be enough to convince you how ridiculously beautiful it is when you extract your code. So the data there is now being set, and then we say data.value. And by the way, the whole fact that you have to say .value with refs, you get over it very quickly. I promise you. After about a week, you know, it's like I can't believe. I'm just going to sort of jump on a soapbox for a second here. I can't believe the argument of, oh, sometimes I accidentally forget to do .value. Like, come on, give it a week. Like, when you consider all of the benefits you get from the composition API, the number one benefit, in my opinion, being the simplicity of extracting code, and then people complaining because they have to say .value. Oh my gosh, it's really not that big a deal. Once you figure that out, and I promise you it'll take you like a week, and then you will stop making that mistake, especially since Vola makes it so easy. Look, you say data and it literally adds .value for you, so it's very difficult to make that mistake. Okay, I'll stop now. So then the data value is equal to the response we get from there. And I think that's it. Yes, so then we'll come in here. My brain's starting to shut down. And I want an easier way to import this. So currently, we would have to jump into source, composables, model, God, blah, blah, blah. How about we have an alias that takes us directly to composables? So we'll say jsconfig. We'll come in here and we'll add another one called composables. Save it. Quasar.config.js. We jump into the Quasar docs. Close that. Don't need that anymore. Aliases section for Webpack. We want to add our own alias, and I think the nicest way is with chaining. So under build, we've got chain Webpack and then that. So now we say build, there it is there, chain Webpack. Oi! Chill out. It's my dog going off again. And I think I can just do this. There we go. And then the alias I'm going to use is composables. That's going to be source/composables. We need path as well, so let's go ahead and import path. There we go. I'll do that there. And I think that's it. That'll probably get my... All right. The server's not happy. Now let's check that I've done this right. Yeah, that looks fine to me. All right, now it's running. Oh, and I hate it when it automatically opens the server. Open. No. Have a sip of my coffee. Oh, that's a good one today. I brew my own coffee in the mornings. Oh, right. Quasar does have the best documentation. I actually, my opinion on this is that the only thing missing in the docs, and by the way, this is currently being worked on, is an entry point for beginners, so an easier way for beginners to get started. Now, I think Quasarcast is making that a bit easier because we have video series, but I think we need a place in the documentation where it's like, look, I know Quasar's got a lot to do, but you can actually get up and running really fast, and there's only a few things you need to know to get started with Quasar, and that's this, 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 and this. Like, I feel like we need a section like that where you do a very basic project that shows you the key points of Quasar. Apart from that missing element, I think the documentation is absolutely fantastic. The API cards, let me show you this section here, is brilliant. The way API cards are done, and then they've got this API Explorer. Once you understand how these cards work, where you got props, slots, events, and the other one is, I can't remember. I'm sure there's another one. Let's look for QTable. That'll have everything. Yeah, and methods, of course. Once you understand how this API card works, then, and like you understand the difference between these four things and how to use them in your application, you can figure out anything. You don't even need the rest of the documentation, like the examples. Examples help a lot, but really all of your answers actually sit on these API cards. And then you just use the examples to sort of help you get up and running. So, okay, anyway, I'm getting too tangential. Is that a word? Probably not. So, what was I doing? That's right. I was creating a way for us to import that composable. So now I can say import, and let's use the helper I get here. It's coming from composables / do I get auto completion? Yes, it's working. Goal, create goal. And specifically, oh, yeah, so use create goal is what I should call that. So let's jump into create goal, rename that to use create goal so that it knows that it's being composed. Okay, now that needs to be used. And now this is the fun part. I can say const create goal service is equal to use create goal. A lot of people like to destructure this. I used to do that all the time. Now I never destructure my services because as your component gets larger and you start pulling in more services, it gets confusing. So I would recommend you never destructure services. Always just do it like this and then pull things directly out of the service. I'll admit there's some benefits to destructuring, like being able to use variables directly on the template, but I still wouldn't recommend it. Totally up to you though. So then we can say create goal service dot. Why am I not getting completion here? What is going on? Am I using Vola? Yeah, we've got Vola being used. We don't have Vita. So let's look up Vita. That should be disabled. Yep, that's disabled. Let's try restarting Vola. This is annoying because it's really frustrating when you don't get that auto completion, especially when you're used to getting it. All right, but this might actually be a mistake on my behalf. Oh, to use create goal. Huh. There we go, Luke. It was your fault. It was my own fault. There we go. Now we got create goal there. Create goal is now redundant, so we can change that from create goal to create. Save it, and now we can come in here and just say create there instead. Now the form, we can just say create goal service dot form. Save it, and there we go. Everything is working again. Let's just double check it. Double check. Checkity check. Set this to a color for our goal. Set a date for it. Create it. I'm going to assume that worked. Double check. There it is there. Okay, that other data isn't being sent through, but that's because I haven't updated the query, so that's okay. That's something I can do in a second. Very cool. So now we've got that. I want to have a loading spinner as well. By the way, huge benefit to the composition API. We can now just start throwing crap on here and then using it directly. So we can say, by the way, the composition API coupled with Quasar is amazing because it's just a combination of like write logic, pull logic into the UI. So now I can just say loading is equal to create goal service dot loading, or more specifically, we'll call it creating. I like to be more specific. Now I go into create goal service, and then we say const creating is equal to a ref that is false by default. We come down here, we say that that is equal to true. And then when we're done creating it, so when the request is over, we then set that equal to false. Save it, come out of here, and now let's see if that works. Blah, 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 blah. I should get a loading spinner, but it's going to be really fast, so we might miss it, so pay attention. Oh, I don't even know if that worked at all because it was so fast. Oh, this should be dot value. Creating dot. Oh, I didn't expose it. Let's come back here. Creating. Then I can say, whoops, that should be create. That one is the one that's creating dot value. Save it. Refresh the page. Blah, 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 blah. And there we go. I saw the spinner. It did actually work. It was just really, really quick. So there we go. How nice is this code? I think it's really nice. You just pull in your service and you just start whacking it in the template. And this is what I always like to have. This is my dream setup where all I have is template stuff, and there's virtually no code at the top here. I just focus on the template and I just pull in the functionality that I need. Then when you need functionality that is more specific to the dashboard, you can throw it in here. But if that gets too much, this is what I like to do. I actually like to nest all of my stuff inside of folders these days. So user dashboard like this, and then I'll create a new file in here. I think I can just say index.view, and then I'll just take, whoop, what have I done? Save it. Let's just cut that, throw this into index.view, delete the dashboard, and I might have to restart the server. Let's see if that works. And if it doesn't, I'll try capitalizing this. Whew, taking its time. All right, that did not work. Ah, it's because register auth routes is trying to find the user dashboard and it cannot. Man, this was a bad example. I found the worst possible example for this because this is being used by ViewAuth. Okay. So let's create a new file here called user dashboard and bring it back. And I can still explain what I'm talking about here. Save that. Yeah, so usually what I do is I'd say, I have a folder here, user dashboard, and I always like to say page. And honestly, I'm going to change this in ViewAuth at some point because that should say user dashboard page. And then if you can jump in there and it's automatically going to pull out index.view, or if you prefer, you can then just reuse the word user dashboard page. That might be something that you prefer to do. Then if I ever have too much functionality sitting on this component, I will then create a new file called, for example, user dashboard, or maybe you could even just say use.js, to be honest, like this. And then inside of here, let's just imagine we've got a template. I just import use from /use. And then you can then say use like this, and then say const. And this at this point I would do destructuring is equal to use, so something like that. And then I just pull out everything that I need from use. And this is great because then in this file you can see everything that you've got available for the dashboard. And then you can sort of just start throwing it into the template. Honestly, this is so great. And then when you're done, later on when somebody looks at this code, they're like, okay, what's going on here? They can see all of the functionality because it's being plucked out like this. So let's just say you got a loading spinner like that, and they're like, oh, I want to change the loading spinner works. Then all they do is control click that, and it takes them directly into this file and then directly to the point of that file where they've got the loading spinner. I'll show you what I mean. Let's just say export default here, and then you can return loading, and then you'd say, for example, const ref is equal to, no, what am I doing? Const loading is equal to a ref. All right, that gets imported here. What about, ah, there it is. And then what they would do is come in here and say, let's just say v-if, so it's not squawking at me. Control click that, and it takes you directly to loading. And then you can control click loading, and that will even take you then directly to the part where that's being defined. Now, admittedly, you can do that if everything's in the template, but it means that this is less crowded. And honestly, the experience is black and white. It is so much better when you've just got template concerned with the template, and then a separate area where you then focus on your script. It's just, it does something to your brain. I'm telling you, it focuses your brain in. And then what you can do is you can break this up further. If you're like, oh man, I've got like this functionality that's like doing this very specific job in this page, you just create a new file that's called like, I don't know, use handle loading or use loading or whatever. .view. No, not .view. What am I doing? .js. And then you come into use, and then you can import that. And you say import use loading. Oh, there's probably a better way to do this. Let's just say like const loading service is equal to use loading. What have I done wrong? Oh, there's no export default. Ah. All right, is equal to use loading. All right. And then what you can do is you can just send that service directly down like this. So now your code is really beautifully separated. And then you can just come in here and look at that logic if you need to. Oh, another great example of this is if you prefer, you could say, for example, loading is equal to loading service dot loading. You know, something like that. If you prefer to create an API that doesn't have the services exposed, you can do this however you like, and it's probably going to depend on your situation. But then another great example of where you do this is columns, like for a table. So let's just imagine you've got a folder here for a table. So instead of pages, we're in the components directory. You can come in here and then say columns.js, export default, and then just have all of your columns in an array like this. And then, whoop, what have I done there? Export default. And then you would just import your columns. You'd say import columns from columns if this were a table. And then if you want, you can expose that on the template. You can do some manipulation in here. So you could say like filtered columns is equal to some computed property that then goes off and does something else and then returns the columns. So let's just imagine I actually did some filtering in there, and then you expose the filtered columns but not the normal columns, which means that when you then come in to use dashboard, and then you've got here filtered columns, the user can, the person who comes in later on can be like, oh, okay, they've got filtered columns. It looks like it's not filtering correctly. Let's control click that and control click. Okay, so it looks like we've got this computed property here, and here's where the columns are coming from. And then they can sort of follow that through. And it's really nice because you're never scrolling up and down and dealing with like huge files because you're constantly extracting things, pulling them apart. It used to be really hard to do this. It used to be really hard to pull things apart with Vue, but since the composition API, it's been a whole lot easier. And that's why I've rabbited on about how much I love it all the time. And I was one of those people that did not like it. I'm thinking, why do we need this? I feel like, the Options API does everything that I need. Everything's simple, it's straightforward. Then I started playing with the Composition API, and I'm like, oh my God, this makes so much sense, especially for larger applications. So if you've got pretty small files and you're not doing a lot of scrolling up and down trying to find things, then maybe the Options API is better for you. But I'm telling you, when you're doing larger projects and you're doing complex components, this is an absolute godsend. I love it. All right, I'm talking way too much. I hope you all enjoyed this stream. I really enjoyed doing it today. And later on, I'll probably work a little bit more on this. I'm not sure if I'll do it in a stream though, because sometimes in streams I get caught up like I am right now, just talking off into the ether. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in a future stream.